Okay, so let me just address this because I was talking to Renee about this morning. Somebody did a video, some kid did a video with an old school phone, the kind that used to hang on the wall, have a receiver, big ass cord. And he said, question for Gen X. How did you used to block people you didn't want to talk to on a phone like this? And I did a video saying that you took the receiver off the hook and you set it down. That way, whoever was calling you got a busy signal and your phone wouldn't ring and you wouldn't be disturbed. And a whole bunch of people came in and said caller ID because at some point in time, caller ID became a thing. And there used to be a little box that sat on the table that your phone was on. It sat next to your phone, and it showed you what number was calling. This was before caller ID was built into the first phones and before cell phones and all of that shit, right? And so a whole bunch of people came in and said, caller ID, that's how we used to block people. When I said take the receiver off the hook, they said caller ID, you just look at the number. Here's the thing. I predate caller ID, right? You guys remember caller, and I remember caller ID too, but I'm talking about, I go back to remembering when fucking caller ID became a thing when I was a grown ass man, right? When I was a kid, there was no such thing as caller ID. I predate caller ID. I predate pagers. I predate cell phones, the internet, all of that shit. And so, yes, there are a bunch of people that are older now that are considered older that, their earliest days where you looked at the caller ID. We didn't fucking have that. It just wasn't, it wasn't a thing. That's, in 5 months, I am going to be 53 years old. On May 13th of this year, I am going to be 55 years old. And while I know 55 is old, I didn't think 55 was that fucking old. That while I'm sitting here going, you take the receiver off the hook, so many other older people are going, well, no, you just look at the caller ID. And I'm sitting here this morning reading all these comments. I look up at Renee. I'm like, I'm that fucking old that I predate what old people remember. Yes, caller ID was a thing at some point in time, but before caller ID, before the modern technology whiz of caller ID, and I remember when caller ID came out, everybody was like, "This is awesome! You're gonna know who's calling before you ever pick up the phone." I'm like, "Wow, that's fucking." We're living in Buck Rogers time, right? And I'll bet you money a whole bunch of people that are watching this are like, "Buck Rogers, who the fuck is that?" Dating myself yet again. Yeah, before that marvel of modern technology, caller ID, there was no way of knowing who was calling. There was no way of knowing who was calling on the phone. There was no way of seeing who was at the front door unless you opened it. There was no way of pausing live TV. You went to the bathroom during the commercial break and you raced back and threw yourself over the couch like you were in the Dukes of Hazzard when your show came back on, because if you missed it, you just fucking missed it. That was it. It was gone. God damn, I'm old.